All right, click the links. Join channel here over at Subscriber. Thanks everyone over there for the nice red beanie I got. I very much appreciate that and wear that every night. So, degenerate Hollywood writers upset that they can't push BLT propaganda to kids. And in the article, he'll say it himself. It's actually within a quote from Mr. Crabtree here. In case you didn't think Hollywood, in case you didn't know, Hollywood is on strike. Like, some people knew Hollywood is on strike. Like, wait a minute, that was months ago. Didn't they settle that? Or maybe people don't even care about Hollywood anymore. Yeah, they're on strike for more fresh baby blood to drink in their sacrifices or something. I don't know, or that Bolivian marching powder or versions from Moloch. I was thinking that, there's a whole lot less pharmaceutical use across various industries now than there was a few decades ago. Which is a kind of a relative phrase because there's still a tremendous amount. It's just not as much as it used to be, and maybe not quite as open, but it's still flowing. So they're striking, and yet nobody cares. It's a weird strike because it's all basically Antifa and BLM people striking. So not too many people are emotionally. The weird thing about the left is the left doesn't like the left, or they're always eager to sell out the left to put themselves higher up on the hierarchy, to find some little flaw that somebody said or did, some little faux pas, and point it out. And like, I'm just speaking truth to power, and yikes, my guy, I'm helping you be better. And it gives them a little bit of dopamine rush. It's honestly, they're the mouse children. They're just the worst people on earth. So the thing is, for people to care about, and they look exactly like you'd expect them to look, they got to admit that they're these pathetic Coomer consumers addicted to the bread and circuses that are used to placate the masses. I mean, how sad is it to admit that you're upset that some TV show or some streaming show isn't coming out with new episodes? I mean, that's pathetic. It'd be like fat people protesting over a town banning fast food and junk food and soda. The fatties would be upset, but then they go, oh, we should speak up against this. And then they kind of look around each other like, yeah, I may be fat, but it's just too pathetic to waddle up the energy to go and be humiliated for the foods that are poisoning you. So, you kind of have to let it go. The thing with Hollywood is, and honestly, Hollywood's got a whole lack of self-awareness there, is that people are realizing they don't really like Hollywood or the people involved. It's like a lot of stuff goes on in the background until you bring it to somebody's attention. And then they start looking and understanding, and like, hey, these TV commercials that are on, I can't help but noticing some interesting things. And then the thing is, we got social media now, so it's not. It used to be a monologue, and now it's a dialogue. And the mainstream media hate that. They hate that we have opinions. It's funny. Someone points out that the mainstream media is all about free speech when it was a monologue, when it was only them who mostly had the platforms to push, to say whatever they wanted to say. So they're pushing all this kind of prawn and degeneracy and filth. And then as soon as the platforms open up to social media and computers and cell phones, it's like now we all have platforms to discuss things. In fact, you've got people on YouTube who've got like the Quartering, who's got a bigger platform than many people who are much more well-known in the mainstream media, working for CNN and MSNBC. And you've got like this salty guy or Mark Dice or Paul Joseph Watson, or these guys who actually reach a real hardcore crowd of people way more than an Anderson Cooper or one of the CNN hosts on TV, like actually talk to hundreds of thousands of people per day and interact with them. Where the CNN mainstream stuff is just there, but it's in the background, but everyone knows it, but it doesn't quite have the power that people think it does. And they hate that. The mainstream media, if they could shut down platforms, they absolutely would. I mean, what they're doing to YouTube is friggin' awesome, because it's getting people off YouTube on the Rumble and Odyssey. And cross your fingers for Twitter to X to do they have Twitter Spaces now, which is fantastic. All they got to do is make the jump to they're monetized too, which is friggin' awesome. But you got to make the jump to video hosting. I was thinking, like, if Twitter has the same video hosting capabilities of YouTube, 20% of YouTube is going to disappear overnight, because they're just going to go right to Twitter, because the monetization is better and the platform is better, and YouTube has not had to improve because there's been no pressure on it. Odyssey and Rumble improve constantly because they're second and third place. They have to improve. YouTube doesn't. Like, YouTube behind the scenes, it's like there's stuff from YouTube that feels like it's like tech is like 5 years out of date. Anyway, people are realizing they don't like Hollywood very much because Hollywood is bringing it to their attention. You're seeing that these people are like, they look like they should they look like you'd want to get a search warrant for some of their stuff. So it's become an openly soy boy organization, as you can see. But oddly enough, there's not a whole lot of support from the soy boys and cat ladies. So it's hard to tell what's going on with them. The other issue is that the 2020 BLM riots have, I suspect, permanently ruined Hollywood. 2016 Trump was a big deal with liberal Trump derangement syndrome. That's a real thing. There are people who were broken by 2016, and even almost 10 years later, they're not. I don't think they're ever going to recover from that. And what's going to happen in 2024? No matter what happens in 2024, we all lose. So you really want to stack your supplies and get that home garden, canning, prepping, forming local networks ready. But the thing is, the 2020 riots were something else. And, Boy Scout motto, be prepared, right, for all types of things. So the riots were something else. It was an example of groups of people with different belief systems getting further away from each other. And the left is Hollywood. They were supporting riots, arson, drag kids, sterilization, violence for political opponents. So what do you call it when the media and the government team up to suppress dissident voices? Oh, is that technically fascism? I hate that the left is actually like they've taken that word over. It's so you're trying to put your political opponent in jail, and then his supporters, you literally put them in jail for 20 years. I mean, what would you call that? Like, form local hiking clubs and gardening clubs. Anyway, so the left is Hollywood, and they're pushing all this kind of stuff. And in California, the state is going to remove kids, hey Scott Wiener, from their parents if their parents don't want the kids getting brainwashed by globalist teachers. Yeah, it's all actually happening. I mean, really, it's like they will get away with whatever they get away with unless you form groups to advance your interests, political action committees to get your people elected, canvas neighborhoods, that kind of stuff. And it's going to have to be ground up. I think you've got to be past the point of trying to pressure your politicians who are already in office to represent you. I think it's way past that point where you have to peacefully and constitutionally replace them, constitutionally speaking. So normal people, I wish I could edit these videos, are looking at this globalist Hollywood crowd and started abandoning the programming. And the right went further right, as well they should, and the left went further left. And the mainstream left is Hollywood, so they started to sell to this, physiognomy is real shrinking audience because the right is leaving them behind, but also the nature of Hollywood is obviously changing from mostly silly pop culture stories to openly pushing globalist propaganda. The whole Disney, DeSantis, and Bob Iger pushing, we have to push BLT kids. What the fuck is wrong with you, dude? So it's kind of an echo chamber for left-wing kids, but it's also a little bit boring because even the left wants escapist entertainment and not just endless bullshit propaganda. The reason propaganda movies or comics and movies, it's the same mentality, so you can kind of use them interchangeably. It's just the scale of the economy is different for them. It's because they get so ridiculous with their fantasy portrayal of people that the willing suspension of disbelief, it just becomes so far out when you're looking at the real world, and then you're looking at these comics and movies, you're like, yeah, this is verisimilitude. You got to tie into it somehow. You're showing something that's just too far out of accord with reality. It's complete fantasy land, just Orwellian bullshit, Frankfurt School, Saul Alinsky orgasm on the screen or the pages. So the Hollywood version is the Cosby Show, and the real version is, I think, two guys on the show are in prison. Bill Cosby was sold to people as this illusion, but the reality of Bill Cosby is very different. I think one of the other actors on the show is actually also in prison for deleting somebody. And the 2020 riots was kind of the left wing with their mask off. Well, they burned buildings with people inside them. Actually, the one famous case I remember is BLM deleted a black guy who owned a small business. We're speaking truth to power and fighting the man. Yeah, good luck with that. And their owners, or one woman was in a crowd, some BLM thing, and one of the guys kind of challenged her, I guess, said BLM. And I think she was a Mexican chick with her friends. And she goes, all lives matter. So he blasts her and deletes her from this mortal coil for saying all lives matter. Well, she should have watched what she spoke. What kind of skirt was she wearing? The first night of the BLM riots, actually, 4 of their guys snuggled 2 women, deleting one of them. That first night of the riot, there's a naked blonde girl on a Ring doorbell who was running from these guys. They had snuggled her and her friend, and they deleted her friend, and so she escaped, and she's running for help. She's on a Ring doorbell, and it's the story's out there, but it was very quietly covered. And that was the first night of the events, because I remember I was watching who's that guy, Portland Andy or something, was covering those events real heavy, and that story was out there. And you can try to find it now. Good luck. I mean, it's out there. If you really look for the archives, you'll find it. If you're like, who's that guy, Devin Stack, Black Pill, does these kind of deep dives type of stories. And then in the Chaz, 6 people got high velocity lead poisoning. They literally blasted their own people because that's how dumb they are. I mean, they're like as dumb as you think they are. They're actually even dumber. Unfortunately, they're well funded by some people, so they have all kinds of equipment. They love equality so much that they had a garden in the Chaz. Then they diversified the garden for Europeans versus POCs. Then the POCs sub-diversified the gardens for specifically blacks and I guess American Indians, because apparently they didn't want to be around the Latins and Asians, who I guess don't want to be around the Europeans, and maybe the Europeans subdivide from the Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, Greek, Irish, of course, and then of course all the Eastern Europeans. I mean, they have to be, we have to have a hierarchy somewhere, right, guys? So, wait, the left are the real racists. It's funny because like we get along much better than they get along, no matter what part of Europe you're from, even if you're Italian or something. So the left are the real racists the whole time. Yeah, it's kind of based, if true, it's because it's like you can look at their segregation from the POC segregating themselves from the European Antifa BLM type of people, but it's like, well, okay, but look at it from the other perspective. So, based? Anyway, it's a fun topic, and I kind of wish I could go into it. But there's things like you can't even joke around with YouTube saying words because the algorithm just doesn't pick up on inflection. It just picks up on the hot words, so you can't even use any kind of things, colloquialisms or epithets or something. And there's this weird, huge middle ground of politics that's too base for YouTube, but not really based enough for the BitChute Odyssey audience that I've kind of built up, who are expecting like super hardcore identitarian ideological stuff, which is fun to do too. But honestly, it is like that kind of stuff does take a little bit of a kind of an emotional toll. And if I had more time, I would easily make like 4 videos a day. I would just be busting these things out full time, but I don't. So people see all this incompetent violence, and then you see Hollywood pushing a blonde man bad narrative, and it's just nonsense. We're not the problem. So it's like, obviously we never were the problem. And they keep losing their audience. And so in this article, the BLT writers are upset that they're not getting to push BLT propaganda to kids. He openly says that BLT shows are worldview changing stories. That means propaganda. I mean, what else would you call that? And that everyone deserves to see themselves represented. Yeah, 112 likes on that. Except that we don't get nationalist stories or pro-European tribalist stories, and very rarely will you get Christian stories like Mel Gibson, Base Chad himself, or Mark Wahlberg will occasionally do a Christian story, but it's like once every 5 years, and it's a micro-funded, and oddly enough they do well, but it's like, gosh, why isn't the mainstream making these movies? Gosh, I don't know. Don't say anything in the comments, especially you, for Fig McDeer. So, or Wanderer's Choice. When we get a Viking story, you get a Viking story. Cool. You use the female African to be a chief? Istaphobe says what? Yeah. You call everyone that. I don't care anymore. That's not representing us, because that didn't happen. And occasionally when we try to do something ourselves, some guys write some comics, the Iron Sights, Jawbreakers, Cyberfrog, John Malin's vampire comic that nobody sent me. I think so, Graveyard Shift. That's like the one comic nobody sent me for some weird reason. I guess I could start begging for comics again. I know it annoys people, but it actually works pretty well. So what am I going to do? I mean, half the point of being on YouTube is getting free stuff, which I dearly love. Or the wonderful Cecil's Cash Grab that he actually sent me that with a dozen different covers, which I think I'm going to do a video on Cash Grab, because Cash Grab is a more interesting phenomenon to me than the others, because it was wildly successful, but it took a different path to get there. It showed you just how sick and tired people were of the mainstream, and how much people want to be part of a network and be part of something and have some fun together, even to the point of like, okay, well, you pick a few people and you pay them $35, and it's like you can support 3 comics a year, and it's like $100, and it's like, it's just to kind of like, people are willing to pay that and even more to be part of something, and it shows you like this interesting rejection of the mainstream. But I guess that's a different video. Anyway, it's Doug and Cecil were at some event together, and it's kind of cool. I hope these comments are okay because I'm just going to scroll down to them. It's kind of cool to see them take a pose for a picture together. I don't like when people are fighting. Like if you're a reasonable adult, at some point you got to, if it's possible, try to kiss up and kiss and try to make up, that kind of stuff. My point being is that these guys were making comics, and the mainstream attacks them and tries to shut them down. And if you're trying to make movies, good luck with the financing from Fink at BlackRock, State Street Vanguard, all those, or the distribution from the mainstream distributors, or like Disney held. What was that? What movie they just came out with? They're talking about the Epstein type of stuff. I forget the name of that movie. And Disney had the distribution rights, or they had partial rights to it, or something. And it's like they sat on it for a while. It's like, yeah, because half of the Disney people are probably be alluded to in the movie. It's like, you're gonna have to change some of these names. They're a little too accurate. Anyway, so guys try to make comics or stuff independently, and like they immediately get attacked for trying to make this stuff. And all these Hollywood and comic people always talk about hearing all diverse voices or representation, but they mean they want to hear left-wing voices and not right-wing voices. Because anyone who doesn't have their globalist beliefs I hope nobody said anything hot in these comments. Is a wrong thinker, wrecker of progress, and must not be allowed to speak. So it's like, it's not really diverse voices then if it's just far left wing voices. Well, yeah, that's the only point of view that's valid. That you're just the authoritarian dictator? Well, no, because like people who have different voices aren't really human, and the records of progress, and they might need to go. Like that's kind of just history repeating. China, Russia, Southeast Asia, Cuba. Well, it'll work this time. I mean, it hasn't worked. I mean, wouldn't you say that about the Hugo Boss crowd? It's like the Italians, the Japanese, whatever. It's like, wouldn't they? I mean, honestly, like there's more arguments made for them. It's like, all you have to do is not invade Poland next time, and I think you'll like. Wouldn't their system work better? Oh no, that's inconceivable. But I mean, it literally has a better history. I think I'll just stop right there. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks everyone. Sports channel, subscribe. See you guys all next episode.